And it's that time again, namely to have another little lecture on Flutter. And this time we are going to pick up where we left, namely with navigation and other ways of doing it, specifically to add a transition animation between the two. And I'll be the first one to admit that creating animations, that isn't my second nature. So in many times I've just kind of borrowed transition styles and so on from people who actually know how these things work. However, I think it's important that you know that as Flutter is about doing things with style, it is possible to animate and make the transitions a little bit more interesting than just flipping the page. So we can animate using the page route builder to create an animation object, and we use that with the slide transition. So basically we create a page route builder which takes a page builder which defines, as with the normal navigation way of doing stuff, which screen page to go to, and then we have a transition builder for helping us do the animation itself. In this transition builder you define how to do it, as well as having the slide transition widget, which is a subclass of animated widget. Alright, let's have a look. And here we have the application itself. And in this case it says who is both a Jedi Master and an ace pilot. Alright, you can send your answers on a postcard to... No, I'll just show you. I think all of you knew that it is Cesatine. Depending on how good the recording is, you can now see that Cesatine slides in from the top and back again, like this. If not, just try the program and you'll see. How does this work then? Well, if we have a look at the code, it's fairly similar to what we've seen before. What we've done is to extract the navigation part into a separate method. So the first page over here and the second page over here, they are both kind of easy to understand, as they do not contain the logic for the transition itself. What it does have is, on the elevated button over here, a call to navigate to second page. And that is where the magic happens in this application. So what's happening here is that we have this page route builder, which is doing the building of a transition for the navigation. And we can see that we are still using the navigator class in order to do the navigation itself. So in the push for that one, we create the page route builder. And this one has then a page builder, as we said previously, which tells us how to create this one. And just as previously, these underscores mean that we are not using those parts, but what we are using is the middle parameter here, which is the animation, which we will define down here. And the duration is just set as a property, and then we have the transition builder, which will then give us the animation that we are actually going to use. So the animation is defined in this slide transition, where we are working on position, where things start and where they end. And we do that with a tween. And a tween is basically a way to do animation where you define the start and the end, in this case by saying, giving us an offset in X and Y coordinates, basically. Well, not pixels, but the coordinates. So outside of the screen to exactly on the screen. And tweening means that we just define the start and the end, and then the application, the tween command in this case, will define the different steps in between start and end. And then we animate this using animate animation. And that's it. In the second page, we don't do much more than previously. We just pop, and since we are still using the same way of navigating, so we've pushed this way of working, then the pop will give us the same cool effect when we get back. And as I said, I'm no master when it comes to the animations themselves, so I usually just look at web pages and get help. And you can get a lot of help, actually, because there's plenty of animations already in Flutter. This is basically what I said previously, so we can move on to the other animation class, which is curve, and we'll work these two together either by using a curve tween or by chaining them together. And with a curve, we can define a animation on a path, for example, and how fast it will go on entering and exiting. So, for example, ease in will be a little bit easier in the beginning, and then it go faster. Ease in and out will go faster in the beginning, and then it will be a little bit slower, and then fast again in the end. So instead of being linear, it is on a curve, and there are 40 predefined curves. So if you just look at the documentation for curve or curve tween, you will get a lot of examples exactly on how these work, and you just incorporate those into your application. As we will be doing here, we want to create some kind of bouncy sideways effect when a new screen appears. And we do that by, again, creating a page route builder, but this time we will refactor it out into its own method, which will be return the page route builder then, and we use the animation drive instead of just animate. It's quite visual, and we'll see if we are able to get this to work on film. And here's the application itself. And in this case, we are just going to have a button which will take us to the next screen, but with a little luck, we'll get a bouncy effect that you will see over here as well. So, dong 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 dong, and back again. Dong 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 dong. And it looks kind of cool, at least. How did we do that then? Well, we did it similar to how we did it before, but we've tried to refactor it out into its own methods as much as possible. So first screen and second screen will both have this navigate to second screen and this navigate to first screen. It's not, you don't have to do it like that, but just in order to get it kind of easy to follow. And these navigate to second screen have this navigator push, and instead of manually putting everything in there, we call the private method create page route to the second screen in this case, and the same but to the first screen down here. So again, this is where the magic happens, and as I'm not an animation wizard, I usually just go for something I like. Page Builder just goes to the navigation, which was what we pushed in, so first screen or second screen. the timing, the duration, and then the builder just as before, but instead of using a linear or just not defining anything, we define a curve, in this case elastic in out, which is this curve way, and then we combine them by into the variable tween by calling tween begin end, which we get over here, and then chain it with a curve tween, so we get the curve, getting everything into one variable. Begin and end, we can see that we now have an offset that says that we should begin from outside of the right side, right page. And then we run this with animation drive, with tween being the input, which is the difference from before when we just called the animate, but we then didn't have any variables to send. Is there more that you can do with animation in Flutter? Yes, there is. You can do loads more. Animation is a first-class citizen in Flutter, so it's possible to animate almost anything. Text, images, kind of any widget can be in one way or another animated. But we've only looked at transitions here, but I encourage you to look at animations as such. You can use this tweening and curves in many situations. And there's plenty of stuff out on the internet in order to animate the transitions and making it look kind of good and cool. And I encourage you, as always, to have a look at the official documentation, as that is a really good starting point. But for now, thank you very much and see you in the next one. Bye.